This morning, I am going to talk about lookalike audiences. And what I'm going to share, you may or may not have heard before. I tend to disagree with a lot of other Facebook advertisers out there about lookalike audiences, when you should use them, how good they are, all that good stuff. And so I thought, what better topic to jump on here and talk to you guys about lookalike audiences and just share with you how I view them and why. And then you can make a decision for yourself, right? Once you have the information, you can make your own decision. And so, for those of you who are watching that aren't 100% sure what a lookalike audience is, I just want to start out really quickly by explaining what a lookalike audience is on Facebook and how it works. So, when you run ads on Facebook, obviously you tell Facebook who to show your ads to. A lookalike audience is when you provide a base audience to Facebook. So this is an audience you already have, and say, go find other people that are like these people. Okay, go find me a group of other people, which the smallest lookalike you can make is 1 million-ish, 2 million-ish people. If you're targeting the US, they'll be a little bit smaller in other countries. But it's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that you're asking Facebook to go and create an audience for you out of things that they have in common with the audience you're supplying to Facebook. So let's just, to make it easy, let's just use your email list, right? You can tell Facebook to make a lookalike of your email list. So you upload your email list to Facebook. Facebook then matches the people on your list to their personal profiles. And then you tell Facebook, go find other people like these people. Now, what we don't know and we don't have any control over is, what are the commonalities that these people have that Facebook is deciding to make your lookalike audience from, right? Is it they're making a lookalike of all of them are business owners, or they notice that all of them tend to follow Brendan Burchard, or is it that they all follow Oprah, right? So Facebook's algorithm, their whole system, however that stuff works behind the scenes, is finding what are the common things that all these people have that are similar, and we're going to go find other people that have those things in common. And there are people out there that say, hey, lookalike audiences are the best. You need to create a lookalike audience as quickly as possible and run ads to that. And I do not agree with that at all. Because if you don't create a strong, if you don't have a strong audience, first of all, that you're creating the lookalike from, and it's not big enough, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, then it's not going to be very strong lookalike, and your ads are going to fall flat. And then you're going to think that you have a problem with your webinar or a problem with your SLO or whatever you're running traffic to, right? And you're going to think that the funnel is the problem, but the truth is more likely that your lookalike audience is the problem. And so let's say you have 500 people, 1,000 people on your email list. You upload that list to Facebook. Typically, Facebook can only match about half of them. And then they're deciding, what are all the things that these people have in common? Is it that they all have in common that they follow Marie Forleo? Do they all have in common that they follow Oprah? Do they all have in common that they follow Entrepreneur Magazine? Like, what are the things they have in common, right? And then they go and they create a lookalike from those commonalities. And it's a group of millions of people, right? And then you run ads to them. And so typically the lookalike, if the base audience that you supplied to Facebook to create that lookalike from is weak or very small, then your lookalike isn't going to be very strong. Imagine you give Facebook you have a pixeled audience of 1,000 people. Hey, Facebook, here's 1,000 people. Go find me 2 million people that are like these 1,000 people. Well, what are the chances that they're going to get that right and that it's going to be very strong? It's actually not very good. But on the other hand, for example, Michael Hyatt, I was running ads for him, and he has 500,000 people on his email list. Well, when we create a lookalike of a couple million people from 500,000 people, guess what? That lookalike is strong. Like, it's going to work really, really, really well. And in fact, it did. It always worked. It always outperformed any kind of detailed targeting. But that's not the case for most people. And I think that people are unknowingly led astray, and they rush into creating lookalike audiences. And then when those lookalike audiences don't work, they think that there's a problem with their funnel, and they start tweaking and messing with things, and it still doesn't fix it. And so I actually view lookalike audiences as a secondary audience. And let me explain to you what that means. So in my on-target training, I teach something called primary audiences and secondary audiences. Primary audiences are people, things, magazines, organizations, whatever that you target, that everybody there are the people you're trying to reach. So for example, let's use weight loss. A primary audience for someone trying to reach someone losing weight would be like the Noom app or Weight Watchers or Nutrisystem. You don't just follow Weight Watchers for the heck of it, right? You only follow Weight Watchers if you're interested in losing weight. So that would be a primary audience. Everybody who's in that audience you're targeting has the problem you solve, and they're there because they're trying to solve that problem. A secondary audience is targeting, let's say that you target The Biggest Loser, right? The TV show. Remember the TV show, The Biggest Loser, where people go on there to lose weight? Well, The Biggest Loser would be a secondary audience, because some people who are watching The Biggest Loser are just watching it because they love to see the transformation in people. That was one of the reasons I watched it. I love seeing the transformation in people. It was just amazing. But I wasn't actively looking for help to lose weight. And a lot of people who watch the show aren't actively looking for help to lose weight. Now, are there overweight people who were watching The Biggest Loser and using that to get inspired and go on their own weight loss journey? Of course. So that is a secondary audience, because part of the people that are there are your people, but part of them are not. So lookalike audiences are a secondary audience. And unfortunately, a lot of people out there that are teaching Facebook ads teach lookalikes like they're a primary audience. And they'll tell you to create a lookalike audience as fast as you can and only run to lookalikes. And I can't even tell you how many people, probably 95% of people who come and hire me to do their ads for them, when I get into their ad account, 95% of the time, all the audiences that they've been running ads to are lookalikes. And I know that right away I'm going to be able to get them really great results, because I'm not going to run to lookalikes at first. Lookalikes are a secondary audience, and I create a lookalike from a very successful base audience that's got thousands of people in it, and that I can create a very strong lookalike from it. And so I just want to share this with you, because I think that people who they don't know a lot about Facebook ads, right? The average person doesn't. You guys that are watching right now, you know a little bit, you've dabbled in it. Maybe you know a medium amount, or maybe you've spent a lot of time studying, but the people out there telling you to rush and create a lookalike as fast as you can are setting you up to not get as good a results as you can. I'm not saying you shouldn't ever use lookalikes, but what I'm saying is they're a secondary audience, okay? They're not a primary audience. So when you start running your ads, stick to primary targeting. And then once you've built up really strong base audiences, meaning an email list or a pixeled audience, then you can create a lookalike from that audience. One last thing I want to say about lookalikes is with the Apple iOS changes that are coming out, pixeled audiences are going to get smaller and smaller. And so maybe in the past, you could create a lookalike audience from a pixeled audience that was nice and big, and it performed really, really well. Well, as the iOS changes roll out, the pixeled audiences are going to get smaller over time, and you're not going to be able to rely on them as much to create strong lookalikes from. And so your strongest lookalikes are still most likely going to come from your email list, which is another reason why you should always be growing your email list. You guys have heard me talk about that in previous Facebook Lives. So I just wanted to come on here today, do a really quick session to educate people about lookalikes. There's a lot of misbeliefs out there, or wrong beliefs out there about them. And they're a great audience to target if they are created from a really strong base audience. And then one other thing that I just thought of that I want to add in there. One of the things you can do to make a weak lookalike stronger, though, let's say you already tested a lookalike and it didn't perform very well. Rather than giving up on that lookalike, what you could do is you could then do some detailed targeting to further narrow that lookalike audience to make it stronger. So you could also test that. But typically, I would wait until you had an audience of several thousand people, minimum like 3,000. I really like more like 5,000 to create a lookalike from. And then you're going to get really amazing results from that. And so that is what I want to share with you today. Let me know below in the comments if you have any questions about lookalike audiences, and I'm happy to answer them.